Hello, everyone, and welcome back. It's the Full 40 with Chris and Rob, part of the Stay Tuned Network, brought to you by Nova Insider. It is 9:30 on February 13th. It is Super Bowl Sunday morning.
Ooh.
Valentine's Day Eve. A lot going on, a heavy weekend, and we have a lot to cover on this podcast. So what are we going to do? We'll recap a relatively uneventful and then very eventful game versus St. John's on Tuesday night. We'll talk about the nail biter, the same game that we always play against Seton Hall, like every single time that we play them. We'll talk about a crazy week in Big East basketball, national landscape, etc. We have a preview, obviously, of the Providence game on Tuesday. This is going to be the Big East game of the season. This is the most important game of the season in the Big East Conference, and it's coming on Tuesday night. And then finally, we have a extremely special guest, Lukas Harkins, who is part of Heat Check CBB. He is the second or third best bracketologist, depending on how you look. I think it's tied for second. Best bracketologist in the country per bracketmatrix.com. Literally ranked. They actually rank the bracketologists. So he's second, tied for second, versus Joe Lunardi, who everyone knows from ESPN, is 55th out of like 150 or 200 of these guys. And Jerry Palm from CBS is 100th, right? So this guy is way better than Lunardi or Palm. So we're talking to literally one of the best people, the preeminent bracketologist in the country.
So he's qualified, unlike us.
Yes. That's what we do here on the podcast. We bring qualified people to.
We know our shortcomings.
Absolutely right. Right. Part of all of life is knowing your strengths and weaknesses. One of our weaknesses is pretty much everything that we talk about. And so we bring on
basically the whole podcast is our weakness.
So we bring on strong people to cover that. We'll talk a little bit about Nova's seeding potential. And then we'll also tee up a little bit about the Big East. And then there is supposed to be a bracket preview show, which has been a tradition now for several years.
It's basically like the Masters.
Yeah.
A tradition unlike any other.
Oh God.
The mid-season bracket reveal.
The mid-season bracket reveal. But we'll look at what to expect kind of going into that show, which I believe is next week. We have
point being, long episode, but it'll be a good one. I'm really excited to talk to Lukas. That's definitely, it's an element we've never had on the podcast before. So super cool to add this in, and you'll definitely hear a take that you don't hear a lot of other places. So that's definitely stay tuned. I know it'll be a longer episode, but absolutely worth the listen. Yeah, you gotta listen all the way to the end. Lukas is terrific. We should start telling that to people at the beginning of every episode. Really good episode. Gotta listen to the end.
He's appeared on Field of 68. I actually think he's going to appear on Field of 68 today, later. So it's a good get for us.
It's pretty good. Yeah. All right, let's get into it.
Yeah. So before we get too far into it, Rob, are you drinking anything?
Unfortunately not. I'm copping out. It's 9:30 in the morning. I came back from the gym. I was like, I'm getting a Starbucks and I'm just rolling with it. And that's where I am today. I'll be honest, guys. I couldn't get the whiskey. I had some last night. I had some good whiskey last night though with Sandro, but alas, nothing this morning. Are you carrying the load for both of us?
I am. I am ending dry January in style with a Maker's Mark. It is the morning, so that's why I'm not going up brand levels to like Woodford Reserve or Four Roses small batch or something like that. So I'm sticking with the more traditional brand of Maker's Mark.
Well, I'm glad you're carrying the podcast, much like Jordan Longino carried the team yesterday against Marquette or whoever the hell we played, Seton Hall. But yes. So
Who do you got?
good on you. Good on you.
By the way, who do you got tonight? Rams, Bengals.
You know what? I've gone back and forth on this. I kind of want Matt Stafford to win, but I like the energy of Joe Burrow and what he brings to the table. And the NFL is a quarterback-driven league. So I'm going with the guy who just brings all of the flash, all that big dick energy, Joe Burrow and the Bengals getting it done.
I like it. Rob likes people who win national championships. You win national championships, Rob likes you.
I do. And they have two, him and Jamar Chase. So
true.
They get it done. Who do you have?
Yeah. I look at it and I'm just like, man, it seems like the Bengals are destined, doesn't it? To a big degree, like it's
the first time that's ever been uttered. But I don't know. Like the Rams have a lot of talent and they're playing at home, which doesn't mean that they're going to have a lot of their fans there because they don't really have a lot of fans. But it's still like, I don't know. That's part of the thing. Anyway, I feel like who I'm going to root for, I have no idea. I'm literally going to watch the game and just pick up a rooting interest as the game goes on. But I'm not rooting against either team. So who do you have? You got to pick one.
I'll be contrarian and go with the Rams because she's the Bengals.
Very contrarian of you. Okay.
All right.
Let's go.
We got to dig into this. So we're going to start off with a very special Alpha Dog of the Week segment. Arf. And Rachel is going to have a field day with this. But our Alpha Dogs of the Week are the Villanova women's team led by Maddie Super Siegrist.
Yes. Absolutely.
They've capped off a 9-game winning streak with a win at UConn, number 8, and handed them their first conference loss in 169 conference games. The last time UConn lost a conference game, the University of Connecticut was in the old Big East.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
So Villanova ends that at their place and then goes on to back that up because you can understand a letdown after that game. They back it up, gets Marquette at home. Marquette's actually quite good. They came into the game 17-5 or something like that. And they were kind of playing from behind the entire game. Maddie Siegrist scores 2 free throws before the end of game buzzer to send it into overtime, proceeds to score 10 of Nova's 16 points in OT. Nova runs away with it in overtime, and Wildcats pick up yet another big-time W. This was a sensational week for the Villanova women's team. It's been a sensational year. Maddie Siegrist is unbelievable, probably one of the best Villanova players ever.
I gotta stop there. We mentioned her a little bit, I think last year too, because as a sophomore, she was already racking up tons of accolades. Last year, she was a finalist for the Katrina McLean Award, which is for the best power forward in the country. So again, as a sophomore, and then she's basically come back. She came back, she wasn't going to leave and go pro. She came back, but has basically continued that streak and just absolute leadership level, 42 points. Like you can't say enough about it. That's just absolutely huge. So I love what's happening there. I got to say, like the women's team with, obviously a change in leadership, moving on from their longtime coach after, a couple of years back.
Harry Peretta, who just was inducted into the Villanova Hall of Fame.
Yeah, but I mean, look, really on the great upward trajectory at this point. And obviously, when you have a player of Maddie's caliber leading the way, that's going to happen. But super, super cool to see both sides of the house, both the women's team and the men's team having a ton of success. So I love it. I'm really glad they are the Alpha Dogs of the Week. And we have some cool new graphics coming on our Alpha Dog Award as well. Yes. So look out for that.
I just want to highlight Maddie Sears. You mentioned the 42 points, but let's just talk about her week. 17-12 versus UConn. Follows that up with 42-13 versus Marquette. She is I believe she actually did this in the Marquette game. She went from the 8th all-time leading scorer to the 6th all-time leading scorer throughout the course of the Marquette game. So I think she's a 6th all-time leading scorer. She's projected to get into like the top 5 in rebounds, top 5 in scoring, etc. You're looking at like potential GOAT status for Villanova women's basketball in Maddie Siegrist, and many would say that she's clearly already going to be there. Very exciting stuff. The women's team is on absolute fire. We did a little bit of research into their bracketology. What's their prognosis?
Sorry, I need to point out, Maddie is also getting that NIL money as well. She is playing her game well. She is one of these Outback sponsored athletes along with Colin. So good on her making the best and making the best of that opportunity. So I just wanted to pause and call that out before you get into their bracketology chance.
Yeah. So Denise Dillon's Cats are look at that. Rob is showing me Outback teammates. Maddie Siegrist.
That's how you know you've made it. That's how you know you've made it.
Totally threw me off on that one, man.
Bracketology. What are their chances?
Bracketology. So Denise Dillon's Wildcats are 17-6. And they're only 74th in the net. So the women's all NCAA sports use some version of the net. That was a overhaul overall. They're 74th in the net, which put them actually kind of on the outside looking in of the bubble. They're in the conversation for sure. That win over UConn and the win over Marquette has kind of put them onto maybe the right side of the bubble. They're 7-4 in quad 1 games. So they definitely have some good momentum and some good wins to back it up. But you might be surprised, like, how could this team at 17-6 not be firmly in the conversation? The women's game is a little different. There's a lot of 20-plus win teams versus the garbled mess that is the men's side. And on top of that, there's some really good conferences in the middle, kind of more in the middle of the country in the SEC. You have a team like Tennessee, et cetera. So you got a lot, and the Big Ten's good. Like, you have a lot going on in other conferences across the country. The Big East is not the juggernaut in the women's game that it is in the men's game. So this is not going to be like a 6-7 team, 6-7 bid league. UConn is obviously going to get in with a high seed. DePaul typically tends to be pretty good. But Villanova is trying to climb up those ranks, so to speak, on the Big East side, and get in with and be safe on an at-large bid. What do they have to do? Their next 2 games are against an okay Seton Hall team, and then they're home versus a good DePaul team, and who handed their Cats their last loss. But the final 3 games in February are all very, very winnable before they get into Big East tournament play. So if they can go 4-1 down the stretch here, I feel pretty good that they'll wind up on the right side of the bracket, but still some work to be done for the women's team.
Yeah, crazy. But anyway, good shouts to them. Love it. Hopefully they continue on and actually wrap up that tournament bid. That'd be sick.
Absolutely. All right. Let's dig in a little bit to the week that was. So we saw 2 games.
Whoa, wait a minute.
What?
Let's not go there. It's Valentine's Day, Chris.
Good point.
We need to discuss the namesake of the segment, the man with the best ass in the NBA, the man who is not good at high fives,
got
the man
cake.
he's got that cake. He's got that multi-city experience at this point. Josh Hart and the Heart Monitor. We would be remiss if we did not do a Heart Monitor segment preceding Valentine's Day and in wake of Josh actually getting traded. So anyway, let's spend a minute on the NBA. Then we'll jump into it.
Good call.
NBA trade deadline was just this past week. A couple of Villanova players on the move, one of which obviously we just mentioned, Josh Hart, got traded from the Pelicans to the Portland Trailblazers. Josh's 3rd team at this point, 4th if you count his stints in the G League, but it's actually a pretty cool opportunity for him. He played his first game last night for the Trailblazers and had an awesome game. 23 points, pretty efficient performance. It was their 2nd leading scorer and really just kind of slotting in pretty seamlessly right off of the bat, which is good to see. I mean, if there's one thing Josh has already been known for in his career, it's been his ability to just adapt quickly, slot into any role. He's obviously got a great motor, great defensive player, can down and do the dirty work, but can also create a bit offensively too, and definitely showed that. So Josh is off to a new journey. I think it'll actually be pretty cool for him. He seems pretty jazzed about it and seems to be, from what you can read from social media, seems to be embracing the opportunity. And if Dame Lillard comes back at all this season, seems unlikely. That's a neat opportunity to play with him.
To play off a guy like Dame Lillard's sick.
Yeah, he's probably not going to come back though.
Not this year. But that'll be awesome for him to get that opportunity.
Like he had the opportunity to play off of Zion. Just kidding, because Zion's always hurt. Anyway, other guy who got traded, Dante Divincenzo, in what was effectively a delayed trade, because if you remember last year, the Bucks also tried to trade him to the Kings. And then because I think it was a failed physical, the trade didn't go through. So Dante gets traded from the reigning NBA champion Milwaukee Bucks to the dumpster fire of the Sacramento Kings. And while Sacramento seems to be a terrible city and a terrible NBA franchise, it may actually be a decent opportunity for Dante. He kind of got pushed out of the rotation a little bit because he got hurt towards the end of last year and had a really long recovery time. Grayson Allen basically took his spot on the Bucks.
One point there. I was going to say, fuck Grayson Allen.
Well, I mean, that's a given. Absolutely given.
As long as we're all on board
totally.
with that.
We're all on board with that. Anyway, Grayson Allen takes his spot. Just terrible, whatever. He gets relegated kind of to farther down the rotation. So this actually is an interesting opportunity for him to get some more minutes and really prove himself. His rookie contract's up at the end of this year. So he needs to kind of prove himself and get that money, if you will. Didn't have a great first game, but whatever. We'll see what it is.
So funny anecdote on Dante.
Yeah.
Real quick. So I post on Twitter. I'm like, oh man, feel bad for Dante going to this dog shit city and this dog shit franchise, which I still feel, by the way. I still agree with that. It's true.
Yeah.
But a fan of the podcast, a friend of the podcast who I follow as well, who's excellent, at Willie Law. He posts in reply to me, "Oh, don't feel bad. This is actually good for Dante. He needs an opportunity to play more of a star role, and then he'll get a good payday coming out of this and probably wind up in a better place." So he posts that, which is like a valid point. Yeah. It's obviously a good point. He posts, I respond to him and I'm just like, I don't care. I still feel bad. No one should have to live in Sacramento. But he posts that point. Dante Divincenzo himself likes the reply.
Love it.
Likes that reply.
That's so good.
Just to give you a sense of where Dante's head at, he's fine.
Yeah, totally. And I would say he mentally kind of ran through the implications of going to Sacramento last year. So it's not the first time he's had to entertain this thought. Anyway, other guy who I want to call out, the podcast's favorite son, Jaylen Brunson. A lot of talk about whether he was going to get traded. He was a hot commodity. He's having a great season and absolutely in line for a big payday at the end of this season. He ultimately did not get traded from the Mavericks, which is probably a good thing at this point. He's basically playing a starter role for the Mavs. He's got great chemistry on and off the court with Luka. The front office clearly loves him in Dallas. So you have to imagine that Dallas is going to do everything. Since they didn't trade him, they're going to do everything in their power to actually sign him and extend him towards the end of the year. So that's cool. And then Jaylen followed that up. He had 22 last night on 8 of 17 shooting. So just continuing to contribute in a lot of great ways. Look, can't say enough about Jaylen. He was kind of shat on when he came out of college of like, oh, he's not, he doesn't have the NBA body. He's clearly done it. He's proven himself and just has a ton of value now.
The one thing about Jaylen Brunson, and I'm not telling anything that any Villanova fans don't know, is the kid had a pro mindset since he's been like 17 years old.
Did you know his dad went to Temple and played in the NBA?
It's true.
Did you know that?
That's crazy.
That's crazy. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, he is. So he's got a pro mindset, and he's just been like, he works on his body. He eats right. He does all the little things behind the scenes that a lot of other guys struggle with. And then on top of that, he's like super smart, like insanely smart. And there's highlight reels galore now of him just absolutely putting people on skates. So you don't have to be the fastest, most explosive athlete, which, by the way, I think his explosiveness is a little underrated. But you don't have to be the fastest, most explosive athlete if you can outsmart everybody on the court every single time you take the floor. And your skills are outrageous. So he does that.
I tell myself every day.
That's right. That's right, Rob. But he does that, and he's winning, and he's doing great. So good for him.
Hashtag winning. Okay. Anyway, enough on the heart monitor. It's Valentine's Day. Get out there and have your cake, just like Josh Hart.
Jesus Christ. Okay. I don't know what were you just advising people to do? Like, was that
it's up for interpretation?
Like,
I mean, it was meant to have sexual connotations, but as well as cake, because I like cake as well, like actual cake. So
all right, I think we need to move on.
Let's move on.
All right, a pair of 6-point wins. Okay, a pair of 6-point wins in the Big East this week. We predicted a 1-1 week, and at times it felt like it might actually come to fruition. But Colin Gillespie played, which may be the highlight.
Yeah, totally.
Justin Moore played, which I think we kind of expected. Antoine was available to play. But we'll get to that in a moment. But Villanova goes out, beats St. John's on the road, a team that is desperate, absolutely desperate to get themselves into the NCAA tournament conversation. And those chances are dwindling quickly. And Seton Hall, who turned into non-January Seton Hall at the turn of the calendar month into February, and all of a sudden is good again, who absolutely gave us everything they had, despite being down Bryce Aiken, gave us absolutely everything they could at the Wells Fargo Center yesterday. Villanova wins both games by 6. The final score of the St. John's game doesn't indicate the game and how it flowed for most of it.
The truth.
But let's start there and say Villanova was up. Let's just set the stage here. It's Madison Square Garden. Brian and I had been in the city since like 6 o'clock. I had a bunch of beers, won a trivia contest.
Yes, we need to pause on this. This was very cool. You not only won a trivia contest, you smoked the trivia contest. I was quite impressed.
Brian and I absolutely ran roughshod over St. John's graduates, who I don't even know if they were graduates, but they were just old guys who liked St. John's.
It's like random people.
We win a $50 gift card to Stout, which will be immediately reinvested into my liver, and then we have then we got a bonus question, and we won 2 tickets to the Big East Tournament Championship game. And by the way, Section 7, Row 7, so right underneath the hoop, pretty solid seats. Like right in the middle of the action. So
pretty cool. Good
seats from the Big East Conference. I appreciated that. I thought for sure they were going to put us somewhere random, but they gave us good seats. So whatever. Get it. I'm like, all right, we're up 20. Trains in 10 minutes. I'm like, we're at like the under 4. I'm out of here. See you later. We get down Penn Station. Get on the train. Rob, I pull up the game on my Fox Sports app, and we are up 8. We're up 8. I was like, I just left the game. How did we all of a sudden go from down up 20 to up 8? And then it got down to 3.
Rob, terrible.
You were there.
Yeah.
What the fuck happened?
It was crazy. It was just a combination of some bad inbounding, some terrible clock management, a little bit of lack of ball control. And all of a sudden you go from, hey, we're up 20, like you said, or whatever it was. Yeah, it was literally 20 to now it gets down to, it got as close as 3, I think was 3. The tightest it got.
And they had a shot to tie it.
And like, there weren't that many fans left in the Garden because like you did, most people left. But the people who were there were just like, what is happening? Like people were going crazy because as they should, St. John's somehow fought themselves back into this game. And
did St. John's fight themselves back into this game?
No, I mean,
or did we cough them?
We absolutely coughed up and let them back into this game. Like criminally bad end of game performance there. And we've harped on this team being Villanova, this team's inability to close games this season. This was just a masterclass in how to not do this. And had this been a better team that we were playing, we absolutely would have lost. But luckily, due to the ineptitude of St. John's being able to capitalize on such a glorious opportunity that we gave them, we were able to escape MSG with a win. But that's one Jay's got to look back and be like, the fuck happened here?
Yeah.
Like it was a mess. It was really bad decision.
And sometimes you could look at some like fluky shit at the end of games like that. And even the coaching staff or whoever can like say like, you know, well, that's kind of like whatever. That was like, that was outrageous, like whatever. I hope they don't, and they shouldn't. And I don't think they will, because this team has notoriously struggled in the last parts of games. And I identified this on Twitter yesterday versus Seton Hall. We complain a lot about the rotation. And by the way, we're going to continue to complain a lot about the rotation in a little bit on this podcast. But we complain about the rotation, but this is execution. This is pure and simple lack of execution, lack of focus. And one of the things that I'm noticing about this team, so I've put a lot of blame in the past on Jay. I'm putting the focus on Colin, Justin, and the entire Villanova Wildcats team. We get like over a hump, make a comeback or whatever, or get up whatever our players think is comfortable. And we start sagging on defense and like not making intelligent plays and trying to make these like cute passes and all this other shit. No, sorry, guys. The name of our game is not turn the ball over. Like not turn the ball over, not make boneheaded plays. We play smart, right? Like that's the name of our game. And we play hard ass defense. Every single time we got over the hump in the Seton Hall game. And when you put back into this, we were up 20 against St. John's, we take our foot off the gas. Yeah. That's not acceptable, guys. Like, that's just straight up not acceptable. You do that in NCAA tournament time when you think like, okay, we got over the hump now, we're going to be okay in a 12-point game, maybe in second round. Like, and that team's going to come back on you and beat you.
100%.
Right? Like, straight up. And that's what happened against UCLA. It's what happened against Purdue.
Yep.
Okay. And it's what happened against Marquette. At the Pavilion, Marquette at the at Fiserv is a different story. Yeah. But that's exactly what happened. And by the way, it happened against Xavier. We won that game, and it happened a couple other times throughout the season. So this team needs to focus the fuck up when it comes down.
Focus up. Let's go.
Yeah, when it comes down the stretch, and it's time to step on teams' throats, not let them back in. Oh God. Okay. We can let off the gas a little bit. We are over the hump now. No, has to stop. And so I'll use that to transition into the Seton Hall game, because that's exactly what we did in the Seton Hall game. We went on one run to kind of at the close of the first half, where Jermaine Samuels went on a 7-point run himself. Who welcome Jermaine.
The X factor, as we always say.
Welcome,
literally,
Jermaine.
you never know what you're going to get.
This week, welcome, Jermaine. Hello. Is it Jermaine-uary? I don't know. Maybe. Could be.
Jermaine is like a box of chocolates.
Yeah,
you never know what you're going to get.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. So Jermaine does that. Jermaine goes on a 7-point run himself. We take the lead at the end of the first half, and then immediately let them score like 5-6 unanswered points to take the lead into halftime. Then in the second half, Jermaine stays in the paint for like 5 minutes, which this was a call that should have been made by the refs.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it's so true.
I think handedly we got the better end of the whistle yesterday. This particular sequence is like why I understand Seton Hall's fans ref grapes, is that Jermaine was in the point paint for like an hour, passes out to Caleb at the end of the shot clock, who drills a 3. Willard goes fucking ballistic. Yeah, gets himself teed up. He earned the technical, but he was right to be mad. and so then that leads to a 9-0 run. We go up 5 in the game, and then immediately take the foot off the gas.
And just a run right back.
Yeah, let them shoot 2 open threes, and they take the lead right back.
We were talking about this on Slack during the game, and it was like, oh, looks like Willard's, T didn't really work out for him because it basically was like, his point was you shouldn't have gotten that 3-pointer, and that 3-pointer basically extended to like a 7-point swing for us. But then, yeah, as you said, like we just didn't do anything with it and let them right back in. And
Yeah.
I don't know, here we are.
And it happened 2 or 3 times yesterday, by the way. It happened on 2 or 3 occasions. Ultimately, down the stretch, Seton Hall didn't execute well, and we did. Colin Gillespie was everywhere at the end of the game, got every rebound out of nowhere. And they, Kadari Richmond, who was having a good game for them, like Jackson's shot, early in a shot clock, takes a terrible shot. They should have gotten the ball in the glass. They were beating the shit out of us on the offensive boards. So they don't execute well down the stretch. We do. We win the game. Great. Congratulations. But this is a problem from a narrative. You want to talk narrative? This team loses focus. That's a narrative. You want to jump into the narrative point?
I like it. Yeah, that's good.
The first narrative, this team loses focus after getting a lead or whatever.
Yeah.
And this is the difference between, to me, what differentiates like a good Villanova team, like that's a championship quality team, and a team like this who maybe makes the Sweet 16, Elite 8, but is kind of lost in space a little bit here. They don't close games.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. The other narrative that I don't want to spend too much time on it because we've just beaten it to fucking death, but like continues to blow my mind is whatever the fuck is happening with the bench here. Like it's insane. Antoine played 4 minutes yesterday.
I got nothing. By the way, they were good 4 minutes too.
Yeah, Jordan Longino played 0 minutes. Like we've talked about this every single podcast, basically, with the exception of one. So like, the narrative, what the deal is. It pisses me off, though. I gotta say, I'm done.
Yeah, the narrative has not gone away, and it will continue. It'll continue until morale improves, right?
Yeah. Which like it probably won't.
Yeah. The free throw shooting narrative, though, still good.
Still good. Yeah.
Still good. We didn't necessarily do our best foot forward on the St. John's game, but made up for that in the Seton Hall game. And Eric Dixon continuing to draw lane violations. It's fucking incredible.
I tried to do a little research to see if there is an actual record of that. I couldn't find any stats that were kept on that because it's such an obscure thing that is typically very rarely called. So there wouldn't really be a reason you necessarily look into it. So we're going to have to do a little bit more research. But Dixon in the Seton Hall game would have drawn 2 lane violations.
But he hit the shot.
Yeah. It was very clear, like the ref was ready to call it, but then the ball went in and I was like,
yeah,
you almost had it. Like,
all right. Awards.
Shaq
Fit Man Player of the Week. It's kind of a team award that I'm giving. I think you're going to disagree with me. Kind of a team award that I think that dive on the ball by Dixon in the St. John's game that ended up with a pass to a Caleb Daniels layup was like, when we talk like quote in quotes, Villanova basketball, that was Villanova basketball. Guy getting on the floor, making a hustle play, having the smarts to pass the ball out, guy in the right position, gets an easy layup. That was Villanova basketball. I'm going with that as the Shaq Fit Man Player of the Week. Rob,
I'm sorry.
Rob's going for the rack attack.
Your man play is a layup? Stop. This is absolutely nuts. It would have to be a Michael Jordan-esque, like reverse under the hoop layup for that to get a Shaq Fit Man Play of the Week. The clear and obvious answer for me is the Jermaine Samuels X Factor box of chocolates coming at you full force against Seton Hall yesterday. Just absolutely tomahawked it, threw it down. It was good for momentum too. To your point, good for morale. Jermaine has to get this. This isn't even in consideration. When I saw this in the notes that you were putting something else up here, I was like, what are we talking about here? Like taking crazy pills. Yeah. So anyway, it's Jermaine for me. It's Jermaine.
The Pass the Fucking Ball Award of the week is difficult this week because we just talked about the J thing with the minutes allocations, but I don't want to give it to that. And then the problem is I kind of want to give it to Arch because of what happened at the end of the St. John's game. But he hits that enormous 3 yesterday. But I think I'm still going to give it to him anyway. I'm going to acknowledge the enormous 3 that he hit.
Yeah.
Acknowledge that enormous 3 that he hit yesterday. But I'm going back to the St. John's game, and he was trying to pass the fucking ball, but he kept passing the fucking ball to St. John's.
Yeah.
And so for that reason, Chris Archidiakono earns my pass the fucking ball award of the week. Maybe it should be called pass the fucking ball to our team award of the week.
Gotta specify.
Yeah.
I like it. I'm on board with that.
All right. Game preview. Let's Providence. Yeah. We're not going to preview Georgetown because they fucking suck.
Literally, right. I looked up dumpster fire in the dictionary, and there's just a picture of Georgetown right now.
Boom. We're previewing Providence Tuesday night, the first meeting of 2 between these 2 teams. Providence is 21-2 on the season. Crazy. Only has 1 loss, a blowout loss, by the way, at Marquette, but only 1 loss in Big East play this season. They are 9-0 in games decided by 5 points or fewer. They are terrible in the metrics, in like the advanced metrics, because of those 5-point wins, like yesterday's overtime win versus DePaul. Because of that, they're like awful in the metrics. They're like number 47 in KenPom, but they have one of the best resumes in the country because they're 21-2 against the Big East. And on top of that, they've beaten Wisconsin and Texas Tech, 2 top 15 teams. So this is a team with a good resume. Like, it is crazy. We'll get into this with Lucas because bracketologists have no fucking idea what to do with Providence because a lot of weight has been put on of late these like quality metrics like KenPom, who talk about efficiency, which measure how good you beat teams, like how bad you beat teams, right? And that weighs efficiency, like point differential in games is an indicator of how good you are. Versus a team like Providence, who, they kind of keep everybody into it, but they win all their games. So what do you do with a team like that? So, like, half the Big East is like, this team is a fraud. Like they're just lucky. Like we talked about in the podcast, they're kind of luck type season. But they keep winning the game. So it's this, at some point you have to tip your cap and say, you know what? They're just going to continue to win games. You're going to win close, but they'll win them.
Yeah, and I think there's something to be said for that I don't want to overlook because, yes, like that doesn't play out in the metrics. But I remember the best comparison, I have to change sports, but the best comparison I can think of is Ohio State when they won their championship with Maurice Claret years ago. That was the knock way back. Jim Tressel era. That was the knock on them that season too. Is like, they just squeak out these wins. They just squeak out the wins. And then they won a fucking national title. Like, I mean, that's at some point, like, you got to get credit for winning games. Like, they're close, but they won. Like, isn't that the ultimate metric?
Right.
They won. Okay. And there's something to be said for like, they know how to do that. And there's a mentality that, okay, we know it's going to be close. We're comfortable with that. Which is something that our team doesn't seem to be very. No,
we don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
We don't know how to do that. No, that's actually that's our narrative going into this game is that Villanova does not know how to close games. And or we do because we have the personnel that has shown they can in the past, but we're not doing it this year.
Yeah.
Versus Providence, who like literally, like, this is great. I was watching the DePaul game yesterday. And they have
said no one ever.
Yeah, they have Durham on their team, and Durham, when he comes in late in games, like he's a rotational bench. He's a rotational player. When he comes in late in games, they literally play Enter Sandman, which was Mariano Rivera's like closer music. Like they have their like closers. They bring Durham in, and he gets to the cup and gets free throws. And like, that's how you close games out. It's smart. Like he's a blur, gets to the rim at will and like draws a foul. They have Nate Watson, who gets every rebound down the stretch and throws it down and crushes teams like on the glass. And so they do everything right down the stretch. I've watched this team play like 10 games recently, and they literally they execute everything that you would want a team to do down the stretch to win games. It's a skill.
It's absolutely a skill. It's absolutely a skill. Like luck is that Ken Palm calls it a luck factor. It's a bit of a skill factor too.
Yeah, it's a skill factor. They look. This team does not play a fast tempo, so all their games are like 60s or low 70s, high 50s. That's all their games, which by the way is comfortable for us. They're not going to blow us away with speed or anything like that. They're not going to try and speed us up, but they keep you in front of them. They have an all-world defender in Justin Minaya, and they have kind of like the right guy at every position. Noah Horkler at the 4 is a stretch 4 that, if he's hot, he reminds me of Chris Jenkins in 2016. Straight up.
That's a big.
In that he's an excellent rebounder and can just absolute drill clutch shots. Right? Like when I'm watching him, I'm like, oh my God, that guy, like he gets the ball late in the game, I think, and a 3 going up, it's going in. Period.
Wow. That's high praise. That's high praise.
And you pair him with Nate Watson. Excuse me. They have Jared Bynum, AJ Reed. This is the team that is just like, they have like 7 or 8 guys and they're connected. They do everything right. And so do I think that they've been a little bit lucky? Yeah. Sometimes I do think they've been a little bit lucky. They're not having to play some of these away games that maybe they wouldn't have the advantage. They don't have to play at Creighton. They don't have to play at Seton Hall. That's big.
But okay, so play those couple games that they missed out in worst case, right? They pick up a couple losses. They're 20, maybe they lose 2 of those 3, right? So that puts them at 22-4.
Yeah.
That's a great record.
No, they still won the games, right?
Yeah.
Like straight up.
Like that's a great record.
They're number 11 in the AP this week. They are probably, I played this out. I think they will jump to about number 8 in the rankings for next week. So I mean, look, they keep winning games. They're going to keep getting love.
Yeah, as they should.
So
what do we think? Are we winning?
Ken Palm, because Ken Palm is putting all of this jumbled thing. I mentioned they're 47 in Ken Palm. Like they put this all together, and Ken Palm has us as 4-point favorites on the road. I'm not seeing it, guys. Like I don't see it. The Dunkin' Donuts Center has been electric this year. They were electric versus DePaul. It's been like the best. It's been one of the best home court advantages all season long. This arena might crumble on Tuesday night. There's not the infrastructure might not hold. This is going to be a crazy environment. Like, in case you didn't know, we get everyone's best shot, but this is like Providence fans. Like, I've interacted with them on Twitter. They are like, no, we want to play both games versus Nova because you have to slay the king to be the king. This is their mentality. They believe that they have to earn their Big East championship, unlike Xavier in 2018, who lost badly to us twice, but won all the rest of their games. This is their mentality. They're like, we have to win versus Villanova, or we don't deserve a Big East regular season championship. This is for everything for them. This game is literally their Super Bowl on Tuesday night.
I don't know. I'm a little bit skeptical of your talk of the fear of the dunk. I chalk this up a little bit to your narrative around athletic St. John's all the time. You're always scared of St. John's. We talked about this last week. Scared of St. John's. Thought it was garbage then. Look, this Providence team is a good team by all means. Are our guys scared of the Dunkin' Donuts Center? Absolutely not. Do I think it's going to be that much of an advantage? Absolutely not. Do I think we're going to win? Yes, I do. I think our team, without a doubt, I think it's going to be like a 6-point win. And it's not even going to be one of these 6-point wins of we made some free throws at the end. It's going to be solid 6-point win. I think we go in there.
They chip away at the end.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's going to be, for whatever reason, they're going to give us our best shot. I'm just feeling that our guys are going to, I don't know, even with a hobbled Colin, just be we don't really lose to Providence. We're not going to do that. So it's a little bit more of a gut feel for me.
So playing this out for the Big East regular season, if we win out, including beating Providence twice, and they win out other than losing to us twice, we edge them for the Big East regular season championship.
Mm.
If we split with them and then otherwise win out, and they otherwise win out, then they edge us for the Big East regular season championship. So they get a split, they get this done, right?
Yeah.
Like, and their schedule is not hard down the stretch. Ours, we have to still play at UConn, so there's a losable game, and we got to play at fucking Butler, who beats Marquette yesterday out of nowhere.
Yeah, very weird.
So like, who knows what I expect there? But like, so this is like, we have to pretty much win out to beat them. I do think they're going to take a mystery L down the stretch. And I think we're going to lose to UConn or one of those other games. So like, I still think we're going to both teams will take a mystery L. So if we expect or want to win the Big East regular season, we have to sweep them. Here's why I think we will not win at the Dunk. I think that we will be up with about 5 to 10 minutes left in this game. And we're going to do the same shit that always happens. They're going to do the same shit that always happens. And they are going to win by like 3 or 4 points because they know how to close and we don't. Which, by the way, long-term prospects, that might be a good experience for us because like finally Jay might be able to point to game tape of another team and say, look how good they execute down the stretch. Look how poorly you execute down the stretch. But I think with 10 minutes to go in this game, we're up like 5 or 6 along the lines of where you said, and we don't execute. They fail to execute. The old snake comes to bite us in the ass again, and we lose.
All right, we shall see. We shall see. And then we beat Georgetown, to be very clear. Like,
and then we're going to win against Georgetown, which is fine. Okay, really quick. We need to set up because we got Lucas on the way in just a few minutes. We need to set it up. Going across the Big East, I mentioned Marquette loses against Butler. They also lost against UConn this week. So Marquette goes 0-2. This is a 2-horse race for the conference championship. It's us and Providence. Both UConn lost against Xavier the other night. Xavier picks up random L's every so often. Creighton right now is tied for 3rd in the Big East regular season out of nowhere. DePaul is giving everybody a hard time. Dan Hurley gets reprimanded because he goes absolutely ballistic on Friday night against the referees. His bench gets teed up twice down the stretch.
I love it. I mean, that's pretty much what he's known for, though.
Yeah, that's his thing.
Yeah.
And so Big East Conference is absolute mayhem right now. But it's a 2-horse race for the 1 seed in the Big East tournament. And candidly, as much as I want that Big East regular season championship, you and I have talked about this. Playing at 7 p.m. on Thursday night is also pretty good.
Yeah, much better.
All right, looking around the country. A lot of ranked teams lost this week.
Nice.
Auburn lost at Arkansas in a crazy finish. Like literally the game ends excuse me. Literally the game ends. The lights go out in the arena and the students storm the court. Like Auburn players couldn't even see where they were going.
So weird.
Purdue lost at Michigan, obliterated by Michigan at Michigan. Michigan then goes on. Everyone's now like, oh, Michigan's to make the tournament, blah, 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 even though they've had a fucking dog shit season. They go to and play Ohio State at home, and Ohio State just whips them. So I don't know. Michigan seems like fool's gold right now, but who knows? They can get hot. Arizona has stayed like super hot. They've won 3 games. They won 3 games this week. Kentucky stays hot. Houston loses 2 games. Houston goes on the road to SMU, loses at home versus Penny Hardaway's dog shit Memphis team. Crazy. Duke loses versus UVA on like not a buzzer beater, but like a late game 3.
Yeah.
Then got the worst foul against them of all time versus Clemson. That was
that guy terrible.
That guy should have been arrested.
He got a flagrant 2, and he did apologize afterwards. So
he apologized, got suspended for 1 game, which I still thought was light, by the way.
Yeah, it was real bad.
Kansas lost at Texas. Texas Tech lost at Oklahoma. So the Big 12 continues to just eat itself alive.
So you've got, to be clear, you've got 6 of the 10 top 10 teams taking losses this week.
Yes. At number 12, and UCLA lost at USC last night. Illinois, number 13, lost at Purdue. Wisconsin lost at home to Rutgers. So where does that all wind up? UConn and Xavier, by the way, are number 24 and 25, both picked up L's this week. We've been joking that they've got to get out of the rankings for like the longest time.
Yeah.
I feel like finally this is the week that
They'll
they
probably
will
get
do
kicked
it.
out. Yeah.
But who knows? Xavier in particular has lost like every week for like the last like 7 weeks and still manages to stay ranked because like people love what they're able to do. But I don't know. But I think they finally fall out. I think Marquette, even though they lost to Butler, stays in comfortably because everyone behind them lost. Providence, I think I mentioned earlier, goes to number 8. I think Villanova will jump UCLA, Illinois, and Wisconsin, and Houston to go from 15 to 11. So I think on Tuesday we're looking at an 11 visiting number 8.
And this is fine. It is what it is. Like, I don't doubt your math. It's just like how the rankings work. People move people up and down. You know, I have some issues with just the nature of that. Of like, are we the 11th best team in the country? I don't know. From what I've seen, like, you know, you're putting us ahead of UCLA. I don't know. Like, are we going to beat UCLA again on neutral court? Maybe.
I think we would beat UCLA on neutral.
I don't know. We'll see. I'm not convinced. But yeah, I don't know. That's just the nature of the rankings. So anyway,
that's kind of the look around that we need to do before we jump on with Lucas, who'll be joining us in just a second.
Cool.
So at the back end of this little 20-second break here, whatever Brian decides it's going to be, we will have Lukas Harkins joining us to talk some bracketology as we enter the final month before March Madness. Welcome back from the small break. We just teed you up for this bracketology segment that we're about to have. And we are very thankful to welcome Lukas Harkins with Heat Check CBB, who's you can follow him on Twitter at Hardwired Sports. Lukas he appears on the Fielding the 68 show. And he is one of the most preeminent bracketologists in the country. A lot of you guys might be like, really? I've only heard of Lunardi and Jerry Palm. But Lukas is way better than these guys. So literally ranked, tied for second. Lukas, I have to apologize. I actually said third on the podcast, but then I realized that Bracket Matrix puts you third because of like, I don't know, alphabetical order or something. Then you're tied for second in bracketmatrix.com, who literally does a ranking. So let me walk everyone through this. I just want to set up Lukas's expertise here. Bracket Matrix is a wisdom of crowds of bracketologists, but they also do a ranking of bracketologists. And how they do that is after the selection show every year, you get 3 points for picking the correct team. So if you pick the right field, you get 3 points per team. You get 3 points for correctly seeding a team. And then you get 1 point for seeding a team within one seed line of where they ultimately end up. And they don't do anything crazy like judge you on the regions because the committee sometimes makes weird decisions around that. But the perfect score with 68 teams is 408. And Lukas scored last year 364. So by comparison, Joe Lunardi, who is ranked 55th of all bracketologists, scored a 354 last year. Jerry Palm, who's ranked 100th, scored 343 last year. And Mike DeCourcy on Fox, who's a good newcomer, scored a 356 last year. So that's all to set up that we're talking to one of the best bracketologists. Lukas, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Before we get into it, Lukas, who do you got today? The Super Bowl.
You know, you have to bring up football as a really, really, really depressed Packers fan. But I really, since the Packers went out, I've rooted for the Bengals, so I will continue to do so. and I'll go with the Bengals.
Love it. I will also add that Lucas has a big East interest here. Lucas is a Butler grad. Shouts to James Danko.
Yes.
But President Danko.
Jimmy D.
President Danko was the dean of business school when we were there. So shouts there. There's a mutual connection. Is he still the president of Butler?
Yeah, as far as I know, he was when I graduated in 2019.
So, Lucas, congrats on the big win yesterday versus Marquette.
A bigger win than most people know. I'm from Milwaukee, so I grew up an anti-Marquette fan. So it's a big one.
It's enormous for you. You're having a great day. Great weekend. Love it. All right. So we got to jump into the bracket, and we will post the link to Lucas's bracketology as throughout the rest of the season. We're going off of Lucas's bracket for the rest of the regular season here. We're going to talk Villanova first. And so as of Friday evening, Villanova was the 3 seed in your Eastern region. I know you're 3 seed in the East. Where does Villanova fall on your S curve, though?
13. Am I doing math right? Yeah, 9. They're the top 3 seed for me, and I think
Okay.
they were still in the conversation for me for the last 2. I think Nova and Duke are pretty close overall.
Okay.
I think there's some disagreements there amongst bracketologists, and I'm probably a little bit higher on Nova than most. But I think their resume sets up to be a pretty solid 3 right now, and I think they're closer to a 2 than a 4.
Interesting, because I look at I'm gonna bring them up. I'm gonna compare. So like most fans who are just trying to hey, I'm just gonna grab what's the bracketology situation right now, are gonna look at Lunardi, who posts everything all the time, and I think he overreacts to every Nova loss, by the way. But I'm sure every fan of every team thinks Lunardi overreacts. What's the difference between where you have Lunardi, where you have Villanova, and when Lunardi has Nova, he's got him on 15th on the S curve?
Yeah, I'll say to your point, anyone who calls, if you're a bracketologist and you get called out for overreacting to something, that's the number one criticism that I can take. Overreacting is hard to really deal with because it's kind of against the nature of bracketology. You really have to avoid those overreactions when you're going into total body of work. And I look at a team like LSU this year, which has had a massive run of bad games, but they're still sticking around a 5 or a 6 seed just because their body of work is that good. And I think that's where we're at with Villanova, with just people kind of overreact to those losses more towards the top of the seed list than anything. Because really the gaps between teams on the 1 to 4 seeds are bigger than they are anywhere else in the bracket. They just are sizably different. The first 8 seed compared to the last 9 seed is not very much. Whereas the top 2 seed and the top 3 seed, that's a pretty big jump sometimes. And with regards to Nova, I think their metrics are awesome, pretty much across the board. If you're just doing a straight even weighting of quality metrics versus resume metrics this year, they deserve the last 2 seed. And Duke is right in that mix as well. But after that, I think there's a pretty decent fall off between the rest of the teams in that mix. Nova has the advantage, top 10 in every single quality metric, which not many other teams competing for that 2 or 3 line have. 9 and 6 in quads 1 and 2. Very good record, no losses outside of those regions. I don't really have a problem with them being on a 3 or even a 2 line right now. The 4, I struggle to see, but I think that comes down to a topic I know you already have planned to talk about later, and that's how the committee is going to view a team like Providence.
Yeah.
With metrics, don't mind the lineup at all with where Villanova is. Nova's far ahead in those quality metrics by 33 spots across an average, but obviously Providence is a better record. And a better record in quality games too. Yeah. So it comes down to what the committee is going to do with Providence, and I'm a little bit lower on where they have PC compared to Villanova.
So let's talk about metrics just for a second. Talk about what metrics appear on a team's team sheet. You and I actually had a funny debate because I was like, hey, wait a second. I thought Jerry Palm said that Ken Palm doesn't appear on the team sheet. And it turns out Ken Palm very much appears on a team's team sheet. So what metrics appear on a team sheet beyond record and other stuff like that?
Okay, so you're going to have your record, obviously, your net, which is the NCAA's evaluation tool. which is generally your own net matters to some extent, but I think is more valuable when it comes to evaluating your quadrant records, which is determined by your opponent's net. So quad 1 would be road win over a top 30 team, or home win over a top 30 team in the net, and a road win over the top 75. And then the quadrant 2, 3, 4, etc. And then there's resume metrics, which is the KPI and strength of record. And then quality metrics, your BPI, Ken Pom, and Zagrin.
Right. Okay.
And Chris, just to clarify, the team sheet you're referring to is what? Basically something
what the committee
has.
like.
Yeah.
The committee has a team sheet on every team. And I imagine this goes out to like 80, 100 teams or whatever it may be that are in consideration. Maybe 100's a lot, but like, you know, a lot of teams that would be in theory in consideration. And they're looking for, do I put them in the tournament? And then where do I seed them?
Cool.
And so, and Lucas, correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, but they look at this team sheet and that's how they make their evaluations and place teams accordingly.
Correct. Essentially, your team sheet is a horizontal sheet of paper that includes all the metrics that I mentioned, your results in quadrants. So you have your 4 columns, quadrant 1, and then it lists out your results that were in quadrant 1 games, quadrant 2, lists out, et cetera, including your strength of schedule as well as a metric that's on there, although that's not necessarily as based in stuff as resume and quality, but to some extent there's strength of schedule that goes into things. Although I think strength of schedule is kind of an overrated metric because it's already built into those quality metrics and strength of schedule. So it's not as important just because its singular number isn't necessarily that vital because it's already built into the metrics that are already on the board.
And to your point about overreaction, like at this point, a team's metrics, barring like a crazy performance, don't change a lot because it's February 13th and there's like 20 games plus of data that's already in there. So each individual game is not shifting the data a lot.
Especially when you're at the top. There's just bigger gaps at the top of everything. So like we talk a lot about how Michigan made a huge jump for its dominant win over Purdue this past week. But if you're looking at Villanova just on KenPom right now, they're 9th with a 25.41 adjusted efficiency metric. If they were to drop out of the top 16, they'd have to drop 5 efficiency points, which is the same difference between number 16 and number 40.
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, all of college basketball is a dramatic standard deviation curve.
Correct.
Yeah. And so when you're talking at the top teams, it's really hard to fall way back.
Yeah, you have to get blown. Like Purdue got blown out, and they're still top 10 in every quality metric.
Right. And that's because they have a historically good offense.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So one thing I do have to pick, just pick your brain a little bit on is you have Nova as the 3 seed in the East.
Yep.
I've said on this podcast in the past, I've said, if we're not the one, we're not getting in the East. And here's why. Nova fans have a bad memory. Now, it's a good memory of the year, but it's a little bit of a bad memory of the past. In 2016, this is the example. The Philadelphia hosted the Eastern Regional, where North Carolina won that regional. But Nova was like in the conversation for a 1 seed late in that year. The loss in the Big East championship game versus Seton Hall kind of ultimately was like the final drag on their resume in a very tight top, like 7 or 8 seeds of that year, 7 or 8 on the S curve. I mean, it was very tight at the top. And like basically like every team was jockeying for that last spot on the 1 line. But ultimately, they were about like the first or second best 2 seed that year. Xavier also nabbed a 2 seed. Based on the bracket rules, so Villanova played 3 games or less in the Wells Fargo Center, which they're doing this year. You would think that Villanova would be placed in Philly because, you know, my understanding is that the tournament committee preferences geography when dealing with their teams. The committee that year, we got placed in the South. Xavier got put in the East, which didn't make a whole lot of geographical sense because the South region was in Louisville that year, which is right around the corner from Xavier, who's in Cincinnati. And so they flipped us too, which seemed to protect UNC and Kansas. Now, obviously, we went on to beat Kansas, so everything was good and hunky-dory, and then we went on to beat UNC. Everything was fine at the end of the day. but you would think that Villanova would have been in the Eastern Regional that year. And so you would forgive Villanova fans for feeling a little bit like, yeah, we're not going to be in the Eastern Regional if we don't get the 1 seed. So let's talk a little bit about that. Is your regional assignments kind of like, well, this is what the rules say, or you looking at stuff like that, even on that detailed level?
Yeah, I think it's a little different right now with Nova as a 3 compared to the example you have. In particular, because I think the committee, now I don't have any facts to back this up, but I think the committee is more likely to give a little bit of that leeway on not really playing home games when it comes to 1-2 seeds, because they really want to separate the best ones and the worst 2s. Really want to put those together. I mean, so if you're going to have Villanova as clearly your number 5, you really just can't plug them in the number 1 seeds region. It's just a punishment to the number 1 seed in that region.
Okay.
So I think that's something that.
So in a weird way, by being a 3 seed, Villanova is almost helped in their case for being
Correct.
in the Eastern Regional.
Well, at least being in the like not at the top of the 2 line.
Right.
I think it's odd that the top of the 2 line probably gets, with lack of a better word, shafted when it comes to their geographical preferences, but they aren't going to be able to play, and probably not going to be able to play in the number 1 overall seeds region, which this year and in some years in past actually isn't that bad a deal, because Gonzaga has often been the number 1 overall seed, and pretty much most of the 2s are on the East Coast. So they're usually not that bad of shape. As far as this particular bracket that has Villanova in the East, that came down, that actually was pretty easy from a bracketing situation. And I don't know how, if they had my exact seed lines, I would have to imagine Villanova would be in the East, because Purdue is the 2 seed in the East. And I have Wisconsin and Illinois both on the 3 line. And you cannot put Wisconsin or Illinois in the East region then, because they have to be separated by conference.
They have to be separated
The
because
top 4 teams in each conference, if they're on the top 4 seed lines, have to be in different regions.
Gotcha.
So
okay.
that automatically puts Illinois and Wisconsin in either the West, South, or Midwest, in which case I threw them in the South and the Midwest, which left me with Texas Tech and Villanova. And I can't imagine any rational committee puts Texas Tech in the East and Villanova in the West. You just have to.
Oh, God.
That'd
be wild.
I mean, we hope. I mean, look, from our perspective, Villanova can lose to anybody, but Villanova can beat anybody in the country on the right day. And if they're at the Wells Fargo Center, we think we can make a Final Four run. If they're not at the Wells Fargo Center, I don't know. We could lose to the 16 seed. I don't know. But it's just a little bit of a mess. I don't think we could lose to a 16 seed, but you get my point. So let's dive a little bit deeper here on Nova. Do they have a chance still at the 1 line, or is that crazy talk?
I think it's tough. I think we've seen a separation. To me, I've talked about how Villanova was close with Duke for my last 2.
Yeah.
But Duke is sizably behind the first 7.
Right.
I think those top 7 are pretty cut clear right now. Gonzaga, Auburn, Arizona, Kansas, Kentucky, Baylor, and Purdue.
Yeah.
Not in order. I was just making sure I had them.
Right.
I think those top 7 are definitely a step ahead. And I look at probably Baylor or Purdue maybe as my number 7 right now. And Villanova is sizably behind all of them.
Okay.
They have more losses. They have 6 losses. Kentucky has 4. Purdue has 4. Kentucky has 9 quad 1 and 2 losses, and quad 1 and 2 wins, just like Nova. Purdue has 11 of those. Their metrics are pretty much similar across the board, especially when it comes to Purdue, whereas Kentucky's a little bit higher in most quality metrics. So I think Villanova maybe has an outside shot at getting there. I feel more comfortable saying that they have a shot at the 2 as they progress. But let me check Villanova's remaining schedule.
I can tell you almost off the top of my head.
Do a whole lot.
It's at Providence, which is like resume wise a great win, but like metric wise, we'll get into this in a second. Not great. And then they have Georgetown at home, which does nothing.
If you lose, you actually will be removed from my field.
Yeah. You know what?
Understandably so.
If you lose against Georgetown at home, you should be disqualified from the NCAA tournament. I agree. And then they do play at UConn and at Providence at home. But then we also have
You lose at
Butler.
Hinkle, yeah.
Butler at Hinkle left, which is a house of horrors for Villanova, but doesn't move the needle from a tournament standpoint.
Yeah, so I would say I don't think Villanova's really in the one conversation unless they win out and get help. But there's, I think, certainly potential on the 2 line.
Okay. No, good to know. But as we talked about, if they somehow climb their way into the second best or first best 2 line, we might actually play ourselves out of the Eastern Regional again. So,
yeah, I think that'll help because I think when we get to the selection Sunday, Gonzaga, I think will probably be the number 1 overall seed.
Yeah.
So there's less of that because you won't be thrown there anyways.
It's hard to look at them because they're Ken Palmed and their efficiency metrics are just insane compared to everybody else. Off the charts. Now, there's some questions about Gonzaga. Like there's always questions about Gonzaga every single year, but you can't argue with their quality metrics.
Or 6 straight Sweet 16s.
Yeah,
the guys win.
They win.
I was going to say Mark Few has definitely proven that he can get it done in March. So, and
before they made 6 straight Sweet 16s with great seeds. One of those is as an 11 seed.
It's crazy.
There you go.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Okay. So we talked about what's their upper level thing. What's as low as Villanova can go? And we're going to win again. Let's just presume we win against Georgetown. We pick up another win. Let's just say Nova goes like 2 or 3 down the stretch. Just kind of like loses to Providence both games, loses at UConn, and then goes one and done in the Big East tournament. How low can Villanova realistically go? Can they drop out of the top 4 seeds?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think they could get to a 5. I would be surprised if they fell as far as a 6, but I think they could get to a 5. There are enough teams that are kind of flirting with that close to a jump in the rankings into the top 4 or like safely into the top 4. Like I look at a team like Wisconsin and Providence, both of which are just like a couple blowout wins away from being locks for the top 4 seed lines. Just because their quality metrics are so bad compared to their resume, but they have the resume already. It's just like they need a Michigan type win.
Yeah.
to inflate their metrics.
Providence blows us out on Tuesday. It would make a world of difference for them.
Exactly. And really it's hard because I think Villanova's in good shape to land on 3 or 4 line as we progress. But it's hard to judge how they're going to feel because really bracketology, as much as we want to talk about as a single team perspective, so much of it is how everyone else does around.
Yeah, right. You want to say like, okay, if Villanova wins out, where do they wind up? And it's like, well, did Purdue lose twice or 3 times left?
Yes, exactly. And I think if I'm looking at one of the teams on my 5 line right now, I look at Texas, and they aren't that far off. I think Texas's metrics are just behind Villanova's. So I think that there's a chance you could see Villanova get down to a 5 before selection Sunday. But I feel more I think if I had to take a guess right now, just kind of having watched Villanova a bunch this season and figuring out where they're probably going to finish and teams around them finish, I think they'll land a 3 seed.
Okay, that makes sense. Look, the reality of the situation is we've talked about this on our podcast before. Villanova had a million opportunities presented to them, and candidly, they didn't win those opportunities. If they beat UCLA, they were up 10 on late in the game. If they beat Purdue, which they were up 10 on late in the game, then we're having a much different conversation about Villanova because they would have added a numerical win, so they wouldn't have 6 losses. But in addition to that, they've been able to stake their claim on some of those high-end quad 1 victories, which I know is a kind of like a subdivision of the quad 1 victory that would have been able to say, okay, boom, Villanova has a win over Purdue on a neutral. Therefore, Villanova has a chance to really climb up, which they don't right now.
Yeah.
Okay. That's immensely helpful. Let's just quickly swing around the Big East in your mind. And I guess the question on everybody's mind is, what does the committee do with a Providence where I think you had them on your 4 line last I checked. They keep winning, and yet they keep losing ground in the KenPom metrics. Like yesterday, they beat DePaul, which is not like a great win, but DePaul's not bad. But they beat DePaul and fell like 10 spots in KenPom. What do you do with a team like that?
honestly, I would put them up with Wisconsin and probably Wyoming as two of the trickiest teams to figure out from a bracketology perspective right now, because there's no denying that their resume is a 2 seed at worst. Their pure resume metrics, their KPI is 5th, their strength of record is 5th, they're 5-1 in quad 1, 5-1 in quad 2. No one's really on the same level in terms of that, yet their quality metrics say they should be a 10 seed. It's really impossible, and their net's not great. Their net says that they're 25th best team in the country, which I don't really put a whole lot of stock in the net as an individual ranking, but it's worth noting that's yet another metric that's not on par with where their resume is. And this is a team where it's really even hard to find some comparisons to what you've done in the past. Probably the best straight comparison is Oklahoma State last year, right. Who was 29th in the net, top 10 in both KPI and strength of record, and ranked average 30th in quality metrics. They were 10-6 in quad 1, but they had two quad 3 losses. So it's not a perfect comparison between teams, but that Oklahoma State team got a 4 seed. And I think that that's about the right spot for Providence. If you just straight average their metrics, which is something I use as my baseline for bracketology, they'd be the first 6 seed. So, and for the most part, you don't see a team. 85% of teams land within one seed line of their straight even metric weighting. So I would think just based off of that research, it'd be hard to press to see me put Providence on the 3 line. But I think that their resume is earned somewhere in the 4 or 5 spot.
It's crazy because they win every game, it seems like. But
it really is unbelievable, and they feel like a team that either makes the Final Four because the luck just never, not even on luck, but like they're incredible close game finishes. Like they are unbelievably good in the clutch.
Right.
Either that continues and they make the Final Four, or they could be out quick. And I don't think either one of those results would really tell the story of their season.
I know it's crazy. It's crazy. I just don't know. So I guess, let's like parlay that a little bit into like what you're watching for with is it next week? Are they doing the selection show next week? Okay.
Yeah, they pushed it back a week because the Super Bowl got pushed back a week.
Right. Okay. So they're pushing it back. That's on Saturday.
If I recall correct, they've done it the Saturday after the Super Bowl every year.
Saturday after the Super Bowl at like 12:30 leading into their 11:30 leading into their big 1:00 slot on CBS. They kind of do this bracket preview show where they reveal the top 4 seed lines. I guess every bracketologist across the country is kind of looking at where do they put Providence?
Yeah.
And
even probably to an even bigger extent, where do you put Wisconsin?
Where do you put Wisconsin?
Because I think Wisconsin might be in a little better shape than Providence is right now, with very similar ideas for their resumes. So if either one of those teams is in the top 16, they're going to be a good place to look for the other team.
Right.
So if Wisconsin ends up on the 4, that's maybe a little low, whatever, then Providence would maybe be a step lower than I think, and vice versa if Providence lands in the top 16 where Wisconsin would go.
So let's say the committee, let's just go like hypothetical. Let's say the committee puts Providence on the 3 line. Mm-hmm. Are you then revamping your bracketology, so to speak, to say, okay, resume metrics matter more? Is that what your takeaway
would be? Yes, because that would be against what they've traditionally done in the past, which is they really would tend to favor quality metrics more towards the top of the bracket, and then resume metrics more towards the bottom, which makes sense because the committee will select their teams first and then seed. So they'll select.
Gotcha. So they have all 68 teams, placed.
68. Now let's seed them.
Okay, gotcha.
So I think that plays into factors. So you select teams a little bit more based on what they've actually done and their resume, and then when you go to seed them, quality metrics maybe play a little bit bigger of a factor because they're at that point trying to seed them based on how good they are. So I think that goes into it, but definitely that would be a surprise to me if Providence ended up that high. But that's part of bracketology. There are going to be surprises every year, and I think that's the really good thing about the bracket preview. And I think it's generally not that helpful in the long term, but I think that it does set up some ideas of what the committee might be thinking for a month down the road. And I wouldn't be surprised. I haven't checked. I wouldn't be surprised if the bracket matrix scores have gotten better since then.
Gotcha. Okay. Interesting. All right. Turning our attention away from Providence and Villanova, let's go to the back end. So I feel like, when you're talking from the 5 to the 8 line, it's kind of like, oh, whatever. And then you kind of talk about the bubble. Like everyone wants to know who's getting the top 2-3 seed lines and then who's on the bubble. Right now you have Seton Hall as an 8.
Yep.
I would doubt yesterday hurt them much at all. Because they actually, I think from a Ken Palm perspective, actually beat expectation. So their metrics are probably decent. But
they actually jumped 4 spots.
Yeah, they jumped 4 spots by losing to Villanova. Gotcha. Yeah, it's hilarious. But that's Seton Hall for you. As long as you're not talking about January, Seton Hall's good.
Yep.
So let's talk about the back end of the bubble in the Big East is Creighton, who you had in your next 4 out. Bracket Matrix has them as literally the last team in the field. What's your prognosis on Creighton?
Honestly, I'm hedging a bit with next 4 out even. I don't really like their resume very much. I think their quality metrics are atrocious. They're 89th at BPI. They're they're averaging in the mid 70s across quality metrics, which is just a step below everybody on the bubble. I think that's the dead last mark in quality metric averages of teams I'm considering for at-large bids right now.
Jeez.
They're 4 and 5 in quad 1, which is the entire reason for putting them in the field, in my opinion. I think that they have good quality wins, and that's a leg up over a lot of bubble teams. I think if the committee wants to look at the last few teams in the field and say who has the best wins of this group, then Creighton has a good chance. They have 1 loss in quad 3. They're 0-2 in quad 2. So really their entire resume hinges on how much that the committee is going to favor those really high.
And how much does the committee favor North Carolina just kind of appearing on the jersey of the team?
and that's the point too. And I think when we come down to the bubble, I think as I pointed out, I put a little bit more emphasis on resume metrics. And while Providence's are okay, they average 50 even. They aren't great. They aren't enough, I think, to.
You mean Creighton? Sorry, Creighton.
Sorry, yes, Creighton. Yeah. They aren't enough to offset poor quality metrics. So I think even for a team that I look at directly next to Creighton in the net right now, which is VCU, VCU is 42nd in resume metrics. Creighton is 50. VCU is 71 in resume metrics. Creighton 74. Versus Creighton being 4 and 7 in quads 1 and 2. VCU 6 and 6, and VCU has the advantage of not having Ace Baldwin for the first several games of the season, which the committee might take into effect.
Right.
I see Creighton as a potential team to make the tournament because it has a good start on a resume. Having those quality wins already built up is a good start, but they really need to increase those quality metrics down the stretch, and they can't afford to take another bad loss.
Gotcha. No, that makes sense. I guess my final question on the Big East is does any other team have a chance to play their way onto the bubble, like St. John's or anything like that? Or is it too far gone? They guys got to win their tournament.
Yeah, I think they're too far gone.
Okay.
I don't really see much for St. John's. 2 and 9 in quads 1 and 2.
Yeah, no, I mean, the resume is not good.
They're just not there. I don't think that they can make, for example, like Rutgers is a team that's lower in the net that's kind of made a nice run recently. I don't think St. John's, not that they can't win 3 big games in a row, but I think they're just so far behind the 8 ball that they're in trouble. DePaul's far out, Georgetown's far out, and I won't talk about the other one.
Come on, Butler's got to win against Marquette. And
Oklahoma on the road. Let's go.
And Oklahoma on the road. Hinkle Magic until we die, baby. No, that makes sense. And look, I think we were talking always Big East max 7 bids. And it looks like 6 of those are pretty strong. Hall just needs to not fuck up too bad down the stretch.
Basically.
I don't think any of the other teams are at too much risk. I think Xavier fans think they're at risk, but they're not.
Yeah, they're a tricky bunch. They hate me anyways, but that's fine.
Well, the good news is everything that you said about Providence. This isn't a Providence podcast. And the Providence fans will come out of the woodwork.
Oh, yeah, they certainly did. Jerry Palm ruined my metrics for a couple weeks. Ruined my mentions for a couple weeks with that BPI is not on the team sheet stuff.
Oh, my God. I guess that's a final question before we wrap up here. What's your biggest pet peeve as a bracketologist? I'm teeing you up for the Jerry Palm conversation.
So I think that was my biggest pet peeve this season for sure, because I just couldn't believe it.
And so what he's talking about is Jerry Palm has been answering questions on CBS. So like first or second, depending on if you're an ESPN guy or not, like most prominent bracketology guy, literally saying fake news as to what appears on the team sheets for these teams.
That's
and
wild.
So Jerry Palm got asked a question like, oh, what appears? And he's like, well, Ken Palm doesn't appear, KPI doesn't appear, blah, 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 doesn't appear. And literally, was it David Warlock, who is
the NCAA director of statistics. Really great guy, by the way. I love it.
And the NCAA director of statistics quote tweets Jerry Palm or a journalist tweet and be like, this is all wrong.
What? That's crazy. That's a bad look.
Wild.
Yeah, but I think in general, my biggest pet peeve is probably conference record or head-to-head. Neither of which really play a major factor, but there's like that, I think right now, particularly with Kansas and Kentucky, which is a great blue blood conversation with fans that are all over you all the time, is that Kentucky blew out Kansas. So like, how can you have Kansas
at Allen Fieldhouse?
Yeah, so like, how can you have Kansas ahead? Like that kind of thing, I think head-to-head gets a little overblown, and conference records irrelevant as much as I don't want it to be, because Iowa State is a conference record, something else. But I think that those two are probably the biggest pet peeves for me, because neither of them really matter at all. Particularly because conference record, it plays into your overall record, which matters.
Right.
If you have a ton of losses in conference play, that's not a good thing.
Right.
But actually your conference finished is irrelevant.
Right. Okay. Gotcha. All right. Well, Lucas, thank you very much for joining us on the podcast. We will continue to check out your bracket, since your bracket's way more reliable than Lenardi or Palm. But thank you for joining us again. If you want to follow Lucas, you can follow at Hardwired Sports. You could also follow Heat Check CBB online on Twitter, etc. You post your brackets every Tuesday, Friday? Is that
Tuesdays and Fridays up until I think conference tournament week. I'll go to daily. Daily.
Gotcha. The little minor shifts. Don't overreact, right?
Yes.
So thank you, Lucas, for joining us on the podcast. Really appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Awesome. All right. That wraps up our episode of the Full 40. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Go Nova against Providence. And as always, let's go Nova.